Hi, and welcome to Mindshifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Rice. This is Jeanie Rice, your co-host. We also have Dr. Tim Hayes with us, and we welcome you to the show. Having a little bit of technical difficulty here this morning, so I hope it stays with me through the rest of the show. Today is Friday. It's been a fast week, and it is July 31st, last day of the month, 2015. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Press 1, and that puts you in queue to talk to us, and we would love to hear your comments and your questions because that makes this your show. Welcome, Michael. Michael, are you there? Well, perhaps he's not. Hopefully you're hearing one of us. So,
Jeanie, can you hear me now?
Yes, there you are.
I was mute challenged.
Okay,
I was mute challenged. My apology, everybody, and welcome to Mindshifters Radio. We welcome you and honor you for joining us. We're delighted to get to share this time with you each day that we have the opportunity to do that. And we're in day 9 now, Jeanie, or day 8 of Laws of Living Intensive, and things are rocking along. Lots of depth of understanding, process work happening. We actually had so much process work happening the first week of the intensive that we kind of had to back off of it because there's a certain amount of class material that needs to be covered, and there was so much interaction and energy and healing energy moving that we kind of had to tamp it down a little bit to get back to class. But a lot of powerful things, a lot of powerful insights happening. And one of the things we've been talking about is that the person who is handed a set of keys to a thing called a car, and they don't even know what a car is going to have quite a challenging time getting on down the freeway, getting out of the garage, getting out of the driveway, backing out of the driveway, going down the hill and getting to the freeway is going to be quite a challenge to them. And they might wonder why accidents are so common as they try to do that, and they might wonder why the car won't go where they want it to go. Like, they stand there and they were told there was this thing in the garage called a car, but having no brain cells for it, they just, stood there and, said, hey, you're supposed to take me down the road, do it. No idea that there's a thing called a key you have to put in the door. Then you have to take the key out of the door, you have to open the door and get in the car. If you've never done that, you got no brain cells for it. It's going to be a challenge to just stand there at the garage and look at this car and figure out what to do. And then you got to put the key in the ignition, and then you have to turn it, and then you have to put it in gear, and you have to push the pedals, and all sorts of things. And it's interesting. A car is a very, very simple device to operate, but if you don't have any brain cells, it becomes very difficult and very complex. If you go back 2,000 years ago, you hear this man named Yeshua saying that his work was only for those who had the eyes to see and the ears to hear. I think we're pretty safe in assuming that he wasn't talking about physical eyes and ears. Most everybody in his audience had those, but he was talking about having the brain cells for understanding. We have each been given, literally, the most capable and complex device in the universe. There is no Cray supercomputer that even starts to match the functioning of your mind. And people who are never given instructions as to how to, for instance, steer the mind or fuel the mind or stop the mind or cause the mind to move in a specific direction. Someone who's never been given those instructions and has no brain cells is handed this device, and they wonder why they live the lives that their forebears lived. They wonder why they live the conflicts, the stresses, the insanities of their preceding generations. The hostility, the rage, the fear, the guilt, the grief, and they have no idea because nobody taught them how to steer their own minds. Gee, this thing's filled with words based in hostility, so if somebody gets in my way, I verbally puke on them. Isn't that the way you're supposed to do it? That's how my dad did it. That's how my mom did it. Isn't that how we're supposed to do it? And if we don't know any better, if we don't know that this thing can be steered differently and that it can produce different results, then we tend to go the way of the generations. It's been going on planet Earth for thousands of years. You go back, you hear this story about a group of people, pretty bright group of people called the Jews, and they're wandering in the desert. And they wander in this 30 square mile area, theoretically or supposedly, for 40 years. It's like, wait a minute, how can you get lost in a 30 square mile area for 40 years? That just doesn't make any sense. What were they talking about when they talked about the desert? The desert is a state of unconsciousness. It's a state of not knowing how the device works. And so what we're doing with laws of living right now, we're looking at the laws of the mind in terms of how they are operated by words, and what words have to do with behavior prompts. And so we're touching into all kinds of information around stress and stress management, how you create stress, how you create the kind of stresses that you really want or you need, how you get rid of the stresses that you don't need. How does resonance work? How do you attract things into your life? And if you're attracting things into your life, how do you get rid of them? That's called forgiveness. So there are all kinds of tools about how to operate, how to become a conscious operator of your mind. And there are those in the world that don't want you to know how it works because they, through the mechanisms they've set up, run most people's lives. So we're looking to turn the locus of control back to the individual and support each individual knowing exactly what fuels their minds, what fuels it poorly, what fuels it well. For instance, the person who lives in hostility or fear, one of the first questions Jeannie will ask when we're doing the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop is how many have ever done something they regret? Everybody on the planet when we ask that question. When we ask, what were you feeling that motivated you to do something that you regret? They'll always say some form of hostility or fear. It's like, well, so let's draw a conclusion. If every person on the planet does what they regret when they're in hostility or fear, that always accompanies their regrets, does that mean that hostility or fear is a steering mechanism that moves the mind in a direction that you really don't want it to go? That's exactly what it means. But if nobody taught us that, we have people who do their hostility and fear, they rage, they guilt, they grief, they do it all day after day after day, never realizing the impact that it has because they're steering their minds in a negative direction. Jeannie asked the corollary question, how many have ever held a newborn child? And then asked people to describe the essence of the newborn. Everybody's word, everywhere on the planet, is some variation on the theme of love. If you ask everybody to tell you about something that was wondrous and wonderful and awesome to them, to go back into this warm feeling of love and tell you about an experience they had there, or about a person who influenced them through the presence of love. Sounds like a steering mechanism you want to use more often. If you're addicted to steering your mind with hostility and fear-based words, maybe it's time to start to forgive, that is, remove those words, and start to use words based on the warmth you'd like to create. Now we've got a life that starts to work in the human form, the way it's designed to work. So that's where we want to head, is understanding the tools that are outlaid in the ancient Aramaic to show us how to operate the mind. Many people have come along and called it a religion, and then enforced all kinds of crazy things on people, fear and terror and trauma and self-deprecation and self-destruction in the name of God, which is about as bizarre as it gets. And so we're here to question those things, to question the things that were done unconsciously by others to lead us in a direction that is destructive and self-deprecating, and move in the direction of what uplifts a human being. What is this whole game really about? And actually that's the next lesson we're going into in Laws of Living, is on purpose and looking at primary and secondary purpose. So that's where we'll be heading next. And if you've got any questions based on anything I've said or anything that you know of the tools or challenges you're having with the tools, we would love to hear from you. That's the purpose of our show. And so let's say hello to Dr. Tim and see how he be. And I know he had a support group last night, so I'd be delighted to hear about it.
Well, I'm doing quite well, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to share the joys of the support group. I was moved by the last few weeks' support groups to type out a blog post for the first time in quite a while, and it's about gratitude, and my gratitude for the people that come to these groups, whether they come just once or twice, or the people who've been coming for years, and particularly the people in the last few weeks who have been. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, I just heard a beep as though I had been.
Yeah, Michael, I think your phone's not muted right now.
And the last few weeks, people have been coming to these Tuesday and Thursday support groups and just opening huge space with their willingness, with their honesty. And Michael, you talk frequently about quotes from various sources, including Course in Miracles, that say, you know, when you heal, you're never healed alone, and millions yet unborn will benefit from the work we do here today. And that's what comes to mind with the power of the worksheets that people have done in the past few weeks in these groups. It's just beautiful work. And I know as it's sending ripples around the people in the room. You know, we had 6 people in the room last night and 13 in the room on Tuesday, and one person does a worksheet, and I know that energy is getting rippled around the room. You can see it in the tears. You can see it in the comments and the questions and the testimonials. And since we know that this energy that we have, we call mind energy, once it leaves the mind, there's nothing we know of that can block it or interfere with it except another set of brain cells tuned to that frequency. We know this is going out and benefiting all of us since we're all connected. So we watched another hour of one of Guy Finley's lectures, or part of an hour. The questions were phenomenal. His work is basically a story-filled version of 100% responsibility and dismantling the garbage within yourself and not getting caught up in gimmicks and labels and stories about layers of, energy systems, etc., and just doing your work. And then we had somebody said, can we turn this off and do a worksheet, because I got a big worksheet to do. And we did that, and it was another very, very powerful system of releasing, identifying things. The Hydra effect was in full force, and that means as I start a worksheet on one issue, I start to identify another related issue, and another related issue, and a different emotion on the same issue, and another emotion on the same issue. And that leads me to another person and a set of worksheets I have that I can do releasing negative energies I hold about that person and interactions within me that get stirred up by that person. And on it went. It was lovely. Of course, intense and tearful and productive in ways that, people will be feeling the benefits of for weeks, if not years or centuries to come. Just delightful to be a part of this process. So that's how I'm doing.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, we are appreciative of everyone who steps in to do their work, and let's check with Jeannie and see what she's got to say. See if there's anything happening in the chat room, or anybody with a hand up in the phone queue.
I had a challenge with the chat room, so anybody that's accessing the show through there, I apologize. It is up now. I had to reload Flash Player on the computer before it would operate. But anyway, we do have a caller, and it's area code 901. You're on the air. Who do we have?
901, you're on the air. Give us a name. Where are you calling from?
Actually, I did a transposition here. It's 910.
Hello, can you
okay,
hear me?
910. We can. You're loud and clear.
Okay. I'm fairly new to the
Who are we speaking with?
worksheet. Rose.
Hi, Rose. Welcome. Glad to hear your voice.
Hi. Thank you. It's my first time calling. It's taken a lot of courage to make this call.
All right.
But I got past this fear and whatever else has been going on, and I'm making the call now. One of the things that came up for me recently is I was watching a program on bullying, and it triggered a lot of sadness for me. Okay. One of these were students, high school students for the most part, and even elementary students. But two of the students actually took their lives. They were harassed and bullied so much, and it triggered sadness for me, a great deal of sadness. And so I was trying to do a worksheet on it last night.
Fine.
And so I think I am the trigger. Is that correct? Because I am the one that feels the sadness. It's not the people, the victims, but myself.
Right. Well, there's several different worksheets that you would do. I would suggest that perhaps a good starting point might be to do a worksheet where number 1C is bullying.
Oh,
and so you start out with the worksheet, I, Rose, who am love, feel sad, and then, go into the next couple lines, and then the object of attention is bullying. And when I see people, the situation would be when I see and hear of people being hurt and committing suicide over bullying, I feel a lot of sadness.
Oh, okay. So, but the trigger is bullying, then? Correct? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, there's several different worksheets you could do in that regard. You could do a worksheet where you're the object of attention, number 1C. You could do, let's say there's a particular bullying event that you heard about and the bully's name was Charlie. You could do a worksheet on Charlie. The story may be just detailed how the girl bullied one of her friends, so it might be on the girl who was bullying. So there are many different worksheets, but just from what you say, I think a good starting point would be to do one just generally on bullying, and then the situation, again, when I hear of someone being hurt or committing suicide over bullying, it brings up much sadness for me.
Oh, now that's new for me because I didn't know a trigger could be an event as opposed to, I thought it had to be a person.
Yes. No, actually, right. You can do the worksheet on a person, place, thing, or event, past, present, future, living or dead, including yourself. So somebody who gets up in the middle of the night, stubs their toe on a chair, and obliterates the chair, that would be a worksheet on a chair.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
I go out in a rush to start my car to get to work in the morning, and the battery's dead, and I get out and I kick the car. That'd be a worksheet on the car. Any object of attention that serves to trigger something less than loving you is a fit subject for the worksheets. That's a great question to clarify for everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, that makes it, that really clarifies it for me, as well. So that helps me because I couldn't get the worksheet. It didn't.
That's our job.
It wasn't. Okay, well, and I'm glad I called.
Thanks for giving us the opportunity to do our job.
Okay, thank you. And so the thought that went with this, it may change now because of what you told me, it's bullying, but I had put down that, wow, how lonely and sad victims of bullying must feel. And
right.
And that
so that would be your thought. That would be your thought number 1D.
Yes, okay. And then
you put that in D.
Yes, and then with 1E, I put the punishment for myself is worrying. I worry about these people and how they must feel. Is there
Right.
another?
And how about the thought toward the bully?
Oh, a thought for the bully? Oh, well,
Yeah, is there a punishment thought toward the bully?
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. So for the bully, I am thinking that they need help too, but that's not punishment though. So
right. But is there a punishment thought? I mean, is there a part of you that wants to give them a good stern lecture or lash up?
Yeah, they need to be held responsible for their actions. Is
that may not be punishment either. I think you can do accountability and holding someone responsible for their actions from a space of love. So that might not be punishing, and it might be punishing. Only you could tell me that. But if it's like, man, I want to get them for what they've done, one of the things that a lot of people want to do to the bully is bully them.
Okay, that's probably that comes up too. Is like they need to know how this feels and get a taste of their own medicine, kind of. So, yeah,
there you go.
I think that would probably be the punishment. And then the struck.
So
yes.
Well, before we move on with that thought in mind, then that would turn into a second worksheet that you might want to do on yourself and your own internal bully. Because every person in the world, you look at it over and over, what do most people want to do with a child abuser? Abuse them. And by doing so, they add to the mind energy of abuse in the world. If one wants to bully the bully so they get to feel what it's like, then they add bullying energy to the world. When we think of this world as an energetic dynamic, everybody that unconsciously joins in something they don't like, they're all, even though they're doing it out of I don't like this, they're all adding energy to exactly what it is they don't like. That 2,000 years ago, Yeshua described as a house divided against itself.
So then
that could be another worksheet. Yeah,
for
if
myself,
I become the bully, if I want them, and I do a worksheet on me being a bully.
I never would have considered that. Okay.
I know.
So a worksheet on me being a bully. I've always protected the underdogs. I've always been I've always made sure, you can add clarity, of course, but I'm just saying I've always been the one to be a friend of the ones who are bullied, because I always felt that the one who's bullied needs to have a friend. I'll be their friend.
Yes.
Nobody else.
I hear you.
So, wow. And you're saying then that I do a worksheet on me being the bully? Wow, that's.
Well, when I listen to your words and you say there's a part of me that wants to bully them so they get to experience what it's like, I am now a contributor to bullying in the energy of bullying in the world. And if I really want to heal bullying, then I'm going to have to be responsible and heal that part of me.
Okay.
So I'd start a second worksheet where your name is in number 1C. And your desire to punish through bullying. And do exactly the same process as the one we're talking about. But let's continue the worksheet we've started around bullying, so you get down to, I'm willing to embrace all the bullies in my generations. Was there ever anybody, a power person in your life that functioned as a bully? Mom or dad, grandpa or grandpa? Grandma?
No, I said I said, or I'm intended to say, that I embrace all the victims of bullying, not the bullies, but okay.
Right. So guess what the victims of bullies often become? Bullies.
Really?
So if we're going to end bullying in the world, do you think we can bully enough people to stop bullying in the world?
No, obviously not.
No. What are we going to do? We're going to have to embrace and bring healing to bullies, because the person who's a bully was bullied. That's how they learned the behavior. They had a power person that bullied them. It's just as sure as night follows day. When you watch people, if you haven't touched into our codependence work, there are only 3 behaviors for people that are functioning out of their power person dynamics. And it depends on the level of stress they're under. And the person functioning out of those dynamics, when there's no stress, they'll do whatever they did to get along with their power person. When stress starts to build, they'll do whatever they did to resist and survive with their power person. And when they become ultra stressed, they'll do what their power person did to them that they hated the most. And so the bully hated it when their power person bullied them. But here's what happens. There's a part of their mind that they look into unconsciously and say, well, here we are in this stressful situation. What did my God, my power person, usually a parent, do in order to win in this situation over me? And there they find all kinds of emotionalized bully energy. So they go, oh, so my power person bullied in order to be successful with winning over me, and now here I am in a stressful situation where I need to win. What shall I do? I'll bully. So when we can create a space for the bully to embrace their bullying energy, even the person that only wants to bully the bully, when we can start to bring that energetic dynamic to the presence of love and heal it, then and only then are we going to get rid of bullying in the world.
I hear you. Sounds logical.
Yeah, it works.
What about my sadness? I mean, I feel a deep sense of sadness, and I don't know how this addresses the sadness I feel for the victims. And I heard what you said. I'm not disregarding it, but I'm trying to get to.
Okay. So in step 2, I'm willing to embrace all of the dynamics from all of my generations based in bullying. Like, I'm personally willing to get big enough as the presence of love to allow all of that energy that's in me to come to the surface and heal. And then the second step in part 2 is I'm willing to go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing. And so my physical symptoms might be physical pain. My mental symptoms might be this anguish over watching people being bullied. And my emotional symptoms might be just all this sadness. So I'm willing to embrace it. I'm willing to collapse and crack open any cover that I've got for any of this energy inside of me, and I'm willing to embrace it fully in love and bring it to healing. So that's in essence step 2 in the worksheet. I willingly go through the symptoms of healing. Then in step 3, I look back at the object of attention, number 1C, the bully, and what's my goal for the bully? So if you pick one of these situations where you've seen that, what would your goal be? What would be the constructive result that you would want from that person who's doing the bullying?
Well, it was on the victims, so it would be for them to feel safe, I think, or to feel
that would be
accepted.
That'd be a different worksheet than the one we've started. I would support you starting another worksheet on the victims, but this worksheet started around bullying and the bullies. So the object here is the whole bullying situation and how I feel saddened when I feel a bully or I see bullying. So in number 3, you want to make sure you keep your goal in number 3 tied to what you're looking at in number 1C. So in this situation where you see someone bullying and you have sadness, what is it you would want from that person who's bullying?
I'm confused a little bit because my sadness is not for the person who's doing the bullying. My sadness is for the person who's receiving it. So that's what I'm not clear on.
Okay. So remember we said there are many worksheets that you could do around this one event. So, when my mind generates a whole picture world of the bully and the person who's victimized and the sadness and the pain and the trauma and those things that I feel, there's a whole complex. I mean, if you think in terms of files stored in the mind, there might be 100 billion files firing in the mind. So I could do worksheets around any one of those files. And in this case, we started the worksheet out with bullying. And when I see a bully or someone being bullied, I have sadness. So in this case, the object of attention is the bully. And so in number 3, I want to look at what do I want from the person who's involved in this bullying situation, which is what triggers my sadness. Now, I could do a different worksheet on the victim. So if I started the worksheet out in number 1C with number 1C is the victims of bullying, that would be a different worksheet and an appropriate one. That'll drop you into a different part of your mind and heal a different part of your mind. But we started out with bullying. So in the situation where I see someone bullying, what is it that I want from them? What's the constructive result I want from them?
I want them to stop bullying. I want them to.
Well, that's what the focus there is what I don't want. Okay. Notice the focus is still bullying, and you'll notice number 3 is worded very specifically. The constructive result I want. What do I want from this person who's bullying?
I want them to accept the victim as a human being. I guess I want them to.
Okay. Good. So I want them to accept the victim as a human being, and perhaps be gentle with them.
Yes.
Okay. So that would be your goal in number 3, the constructive result that I want. And one of the things that what we call the non-being mind is expert at is all the things it doesn't want. Oh, I just don't want any more bullying in the world. No, what I want is for people to be loving, gentle, and respectful with each other. That's the goal that's going to take me into the part of my mind that's in need of healing around this, so that I can be more empowered to create a healed world in regard to bullying.
Okay. I think I understand, right? Okay. A constructive result.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then in number 4, what I'm going to do, what we've discovered is that if there's a part of my mind in hiding that holds pain in it, and I can access that part of my mind and bring it forward in the presence of love, whatever doesn't whatever doesn't belong there begins to dissolve. So in number 4, what I'm doing is I'm tapping into and I'm bringing as powerfully as I can the active presence of love into my physiology. So for me, the way that I do that, when my daughter was born, she was birthed at home. I got to catch her. And, they say that a child can't focus their eyes for the first several days. My daughter's head delivered into my hands. She opened her eyes, crystal clear, laser focus, looked in my eyes, and grinned at me.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
That just put me into another world, a world I had never experienced previously, at least not in memory. And so for me, in this step 4, I go to that. I just focus on and hold the space of tapping into that sweetness of energy that just took me to another world. Mm-hmm. So each time you do a worksheet, what stimulates the active presence of love for you?
I see in my mind's eyes a picture of my daughter as an infant, and she just has a very warm, loving look there in her eyes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So that's what I want to do in step 4 is focus into that, so that active and alive in my physiology is this sweet presence of love as I'm getting ready to look at this traumatic energy that I hold inside of me. So just take a moment and just really experientially let yourself to connect so that every cell in your body is feeling that presence of love. Good breath.
Okay. I feel that loving energy.
Okay. Then in step 5, what I do is I bring my answer exactly as it is, word for word, in number 3 down to number 5.
Okay. So
I'm just going to transfer my answer from 3 down to 5. Make that your next step.
Okay.
Once you've got it written out, let me know.
Okay. Bully.
Okay, now the whole of number 5, basically the idea there is each time you do a worksheet, you basically review the whole principle of the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop. We're not going to do every step of that right now, but just recognize the action step, where with the presence of love, I cancel my need for the bully to have regard for the victim and treat them lovingly. Which, for virtually everybody, sounds like an insane thing to do. The reason why you do this step, and this is the core of forgiveness from the 1st century Aramaic, and this is the core of what we're looking to reestablish on planet Earth. It's been lost for almost 2,000 years. And that is that what drives my mind to use the data that it uses to create the world that I see, the perceptual world that I see, is my goals. You know, there's some interesting Harvard research that says that in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells fire, the max amount of information that goes into conscious awareness is 9 bits of data. That's it, 9 bits.
Okay.
And so something has to determine out of all that data. You know, it's pretty well accepted in the psychology world that 95% of our mental processes are unconscious. And so what I want to do is I want to drop into my unconscious processes and become aware of them. But I can't do that while my conscious mind is filled with all this sorrow and pain about bullying and bullies and victims and all of that. So in Aramaic, the word forgive is shabag or shabak, and it means to cancel, to let loose, to untie. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to cancel my need for the person who's bullying, to have positive regard for the victim, and treat them lovingly. Now, to many people when they first do it, that doesn't make any sense. I'll just invite you to trust me and just try. Just do it. Just cancel that.
Okay. And it does seem contradictory to my mind, but
I cancel. I need for. Yep. Let it go.
Okay.
And breathe. Where did your mind just go? Yeah, good one. Where did your mind just go? What awareness came to you?
When I canceled the need for the bully to have regard or respect for the victim.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just still feel very sad.
So you kind of dropped into sadness?
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you just let yourself be with that sadness? Breathe into it. Can you remember in your life the first time that you felt this kind of sadness?
I'm feeling like maybe when I was told not to be so active and busy, and maybe 2 or 3 years old or so. He's a very active child.
Right.
I don't know. Okay. I don't know what that has to do with bullying, but okay.
Well, let's just explore a little bit. So just let yourself be with this sadness of the 3-year-old who's just been told she's not supposed to be active. She's supposed to be still and quiet.
Yeah.
And breathe into that. Let yourself just feel it and be with it. Do you suppose in any way, shape, or form the 3-year-old who's just out there doing life, enthusiastic, who's being shut down, do you suppose there's any parallel between that and the person who's being bullied by someone and being shut down and not respected?
Maybe.
Breathe.
Well, I never thought about it, but I guess, I was being told to, stop and still not talk so much, not play so much, not be so lively. So, yes, I guess.
Sounds like a very precise to a 3-year-old. Now, mom or dad, whoever was doing it, big brother, big sister, might have done lovingly, but to the 3-year-old who's just totally in their enthusiasm, one of the workshops we do is called Empowered to Heal, and we go into how the endocrine system is shut down. And when a child has enthusiasm shut down in them, the energy of that shutdown goes into the pineal gland and starts to turn off the endocrine system. And so it sounds pretty clear to me that the 3-year-old would probably perceive that, having that shut down, their enthusiasm. And when enthusiasm shuts down, it's painful.
Yeah,
it's our natural state.
Right now.
Yeah. We're designed to live in theos, which literally means in God, enthusiasm, in that aliveness. And when it shuts down, that's a pretty powerful act of bullying for a 3-year-old. Go for it. Go all the way into that. Just let yourself be with it.
Okay.
Let yourself feel what it was like to just have that enthusiasm and that aliveness just forced back in and closed down.
It made me feel like something was wrong with me. That
Isn't that exactly what the bully is doing to the victim? Isn't their message something about what's wrong with them, how they're less than the bully?
Yeah.
The bully building themselves up to... And so what you're doing right now as you hold to the presence of love, and you've got a whole community of people all over the globe right now through this radio show that are holding to that presence of love, as you hold to that, and you allow yourself to drop into the place in the structure where, as a 3-year-old, this energy of enthusiasm was suppressed, you're now accessing and liberating that energy and the feelings that went with it, taking the load off of your pineal gland. And it's called a healing process. It's called youthing, turning back the clock of aging.
I couldn't have done this by myself. I wouldn't have gotten to that easily. I tried doing this worksheet last night, and I never got to this, that it had anything to do with my childhood.
Yeah. Well, you know something? I've never known one person who flies airplanes, yet the first time they got in the cockpit could fly an airplane. I've never known one person who the first time they got behind the wheel of a car just zipped off and drove successfully. I've never known anybody who hasn't been trained in developing a set of skills that they are experts at using those skills before they're instructed. So you've just taken a huge step into, this is how forgiveness works. And that's what we're here for. That's why we take an hour every day of our time to create this space for us to have this conversation so you can have that experience. And then you can continue that experience of forgiveness, having had that experience, and utilize it in your world. And you heard Dr. Tim about the results of the support group. I don't know where you're located, but you might open a support group and start to work with people. Yeah, awesome. Oh, cool. Where?
With Susan in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Oh, awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. Well, we got her right now.
Yes, I know. I miss her, but she's doing a lot of good work. I know. So let me go back to number 6. I now feel sadness, and I see that as a 3-year-old, I interpreted my mother's actions as bullying me. Is that what I'm doing in number 6?
That would be up to you to answer. Is that accurate?
That is so hard for me because, there's that part of me. My mom loved me, and she was as good
of course.
And so it's like almost. I'm sure there are other people who feel this way too. So I want to bring it up because maybe to help others. There's a conflict now because there's a part of me that says, but that I don't want to blame my mom for something that. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like my mom did the best she could with
100%.
us. So how do I deal with that? How do I deal with that? It's conflicting for me.
Okay. So here's what we call the Hydra effect. If you're familiar with Greek philosophy, there was this creature called the Hydra. And when you cut off the Hydra's head, several more heads popped up and appeared. So you've just taken down one of the realities in your mind upon which your sadness for people who are bullied is based. And you've accessed and cleaned up a piece of your sadness. Now your next worksheet might be on my conflicting thoughts about my mom. And so number 1C on my next worksheet might be mom. And the situation might be, how could she have shut me down like that when she loved me so much? And my feeling is confusion. Yeah. And my thought is, I don't understand how both of those things could be true. And my punishment might be, I just want to withdraw. And then I go into, I'm willing to go through the symptoms of healing. I'm willing to embrace all of these dynamics from all my generations. And what did I want from my mom? I wanted her to support my aliveness. Just like when I see someone being bullied, I want that bully to support that person who's hurting. I want that bully to support their aliveness. And then I go in and I cancel my need for mom to support I set love. I cancel my need for mom to support my aliveness. And then I let the next layer of what's hiding in my mind come forward to awareness.
Can I interrupt?
Please.
Or you want to? Okay, so I'm writing this in as you're telling me, 1C and so forth, so I can continue after I hang up. So there's still some, I'm sure you're going to say another worksheet, but I'll let you tell me. There's still some more conflict coming up because when I say I wanted my mom to support my aliveness, I know that I was a busy child. My mom was a single parent. She was overloaded. So where do I go with that? Because I know she did your best with a child that was
Right, absolutely.
vivacious and active, and
Mm-hmm.
So, so where do I go? I want to protect my mom. There's a part of me that wants to say, no, Mom did the best. And she did. I know she did the best she could. How do I resolve how it impacted me with not going against or not, not attacking my mom and attack, for lack of a better word.
Yep. Yes, I understand. I hear you loud and clear. So these are different files in the mind that are all clamoring now for clarity. And so what you do is you do it kind of like you've heard the advice of how to eat an elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah.
You take one worksheet at a time. So each of these is a worksheet. So I'm going to do a worksheet on myself. And maybe it would be my fear of condemning Mom.
Oh, And I'm filling it in now so that I can do it later on.
Yeah. And do that worksheet. And another one might be on myself with my name is number 1C. And the situation might be that I'm a bad person if I condemn my mom who worked so hard to raise me.
Oh.
And how do I feel? Afraid, scared. What's my thought? Gee, I can't diss my mom. That would be terrible.
Right.
What's my punishment? I want to shut myself up, just like my power person shut me up. What's my goal for myself? Oh, I want to be able to look at the truth and hold a space of love.
That's my constructive resolve? Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
Is I want to what?
And so I take that I want to hold a space of love for myself.
Okay.
At the same time as I tell the truth about my mom. And so, Yeshua again speaks about a house divided against itself. If I have a split mind, if I've got a part of my mind, and obviously there's all kinds of honoring and caring for and appreciating what your mom did for you. And there's another file in your mind that's got a little different content about how, I got pushed down and shut down and my aliveness shut off. That wasn't very nice. And so to recognize that it's safe for me to go into that part of my mind that holds that content. I was only 3 years old. I didn't understand. Mom's busy. It's too much energy for her. No, there was no ill intent in her, but that didn't change the fact as a 3-year-old, I felt bullied and shut down. And so as I clean that all out and I can bring to awareness, Mom was so awesome in what she did. Here I was 3 thinking I was being shut down when the truth was, reasonably so, Mom had worked a long day, got home from work, and she had to take care of herself. So as I get to see that, then I get to clean that file out of my mind. And that's the whole idea, so that I don't have to have any unconscious mind left. I think it's unnatural for a human being to have any unconscious dynamics. So what I'm doing with the worksheet is allowing myself to get in touch with those unconscious dynamics. And we are down to just the less than a minute now, so I kind of have to close the show out. But, I'd be delighted if there's more to...
Yes.
Jeannie?
Yes. I was just going to say, before she goes, I got a text from a young lady who was here at Heartland for our 10-day food fund, and she says that to please tell you that she's listening to you, and it has been an absolute honor and pleasure, that it's opened a new space in her, and she's certain that it has for other people too, and that she is actually becoming a truer Erica through your story. And there's like 2 or 3 people on the switchboard, so I'm sure there's other people out there that wanted to comment to you too. So why don't we continue this on Monday?
Okay.
Yeah, if it's appropriate, do some worksheets over the weekend and call in early, and let's continue the conversation, because it's your process is fabulous.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you.
And our show is over. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bring us a Stranger to the Show on Monday. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Mom, why is this movie download taking so long?
The internet's slower because our network gives cell phone users priority during the